Hello and welcome back to On the Workbench. Today we got a video I'm excited to bring to you. And it's a video comparing various types of motor oils. So starting on the left, we've got Castrol 5W30. These are full synthetic. Castrol 0W30. That's what I've been running lately with a lot of my oil. For some reason, I've been really liking the Castrol lately. I also have what's many consider the gold standard, Mobil 1. We got, again, full synthetic, and I'm keeping this to the basic ones. I'm not using some of the ones that are the advanced engine life. So we got the 5W30 to compare to the Castrol 5W30. I also have the harder to find Mobil 1 0W30 compared to the 0W30 in Castrol. Certain vehicles specify 0W30, but on my larger SUV it takes 5W30. In the winter I usually put 0W30 in it. So I want to show you the comparison between 5W30 versus 0W30 in full synthetic. And then to compare all these synthetics, I've got over here on the right a straight up standard traditional 5W30. So you can see the difference between conventional 5W30 and full synthetic 5W30. And then I've got the motor oil of my youth, 10W40. I was trying to find this in a Pennzoil or something else that was a standard oil. It's getting harder to find in 10W40. Not many engines take that. And so then we can compare a 10W40 that's in standard to a 5W30 in standard. So that's a good apples to apples comparison to seeing just how big of a difference does the 30 and the 40 and the 5 and the 10 at the lower end of your oil range. How much of a difference does that make? Our first test of these motor oils is going to be a cold weather viscosity test. And to do that, we're going to start by taking all 6 bottles of this motor oil and we're going to put them in our freezer. And we're going to get them nice and cold, have them freeze for a couple days. Unfortunately, I don't have a deep freeze. This is just be my regular household freezer. And we'll let them sit and thicken up as thick as they can in a freezer, which should be a good representation of the kind of weather you'd find outdoors. I know you could get to some deeper freezes if you had a special scientific freezer, but let's be realistic. This is the kind of weather you might expect outdoors in a harsh winter. Now we're inside the house and I made some room in my freezer for our motor oil, and so we're just going to go ahead and put it in. We've got here's our 2 bottles of Castrol, bottles of Mobil 1, and now our conventional motor oil. All goes in the drawer just like that. And so we're going to put that in there and let those bottles sit and get nice and cold in the freezer for the next couple of days. And we'll pull them out and proceed with our test. Please don't tell my wife I'm doing this. I'll probably get in trouble. It's been about 42 hours since I put the motor oil into the freezer. So now let's check and see how it's doing. So if we open up the freezer, and let me slide the camera over here, we can pull out our motor oil. And so in the back, we've got the white jugs. This is the normal non-synthetic oil. You know, it's still definitely flowable. If I look at the 10W40, this would be the thickest one, probably the worst. It's still flowing, so I think we're going to need to go colder on this motor oil so that we can get some meaningful results for cold weather startup. So to do that, I have set up a tarp on the kitchen floor and acquired some dry ice. So now we're going to put the motor oil in the dry ice. Using an infrared thermometer, we can look and see what the approximate temperature is of the motor oil. And this is showing somewhere around about 7 degrees Fahrenheit. Maybe a little more in the front if we go to the back, which is a little more accurate. 8. Obviously the door is open, so it's rising here. So this has probably been stored at about 7 or 8, 9 degrees Fahrenheit. And now just for a look at the dry ice setup here in the container. We got the dry ice. I've got a pair of long leather gloves. I'm wearing safety glasses to make sure I'm safe around the dry ice. Dry ice can get very cold. Put the gloves on. And when I bought it at the store, let's see what the temperature is of the ice chest. Just like this. It's actually quite warm because of how it's insulated. So now we're going to have to change the insulation here so we can actually get the dry ice to help cool down our motor oil and get it ready. So here's our dry ice package the way it came from the store. And then just to fill space, I've got some extra paper here. We'll save that for the top for some insulation. At the bottom of the container, it's nice and empty. I'm going to take my oil bottles here, and we're going to have it wrapped in these cloths just in case anything happens. I'm going to put one at the bottom. This is a microfiber cloth. In case anything spills, I want to minimize my chance of a mess. And so here's our first bottle here of our 5W30. Wrap that in a cloth. Alright, so we got the motor oil in. Now on with the dry ice. I bought 2 pounds at the store. And so this came well insulated. Dry ice can get very cold, so you want to make sure you protect yourself if you're working with dry ice. And so here's the dry ice in the bag, just so you can see it. Hopefully you can see the dry ice there. I'm going to leave that in the plastic bag. And then I'm going to try to make sure the dry ice is not actually touching any of the containers directly. And so now we got the dry ice. And let's use our infrared thermometer. And the dry ice temperature is going to show at, let's see here, at the bottom. There we go. About -7. And you can see it's quickly subliming there, so I want to make sure I get that there, so this is going to get this as cold as I can possibly get it. I'm going to put this paper on top just to help hold in and occupy the airspace. And now we got our cooler set up there to hopefully chill our motor oil to make it as cold as possible as we can get it. We're back out in the garage now. I've brought the container with our oil and the dry ice out here. And so this oil, to recap, has sat for 42 hours in the freezer. And then now it's set for about 3.5 hours in dry ice before we begin our test. And the reason why we're not going to let it sit forever in dry ice is because dry ice is so cold, it'll eventually subliminate into gas and exhaust itself as carbon dioxide, eliminating the cold effect that you get from dry ice. We can't keep it forever. We don't have the ability to actually keep anything that cold, so we have a relatively short life that we can use our dry ice. So we're going to open this up and take a look and see how cold our oil is. I made one intermittent check on the oil and kind of readjusted the microfiber cloths and the dry ice to make sure that it was getting all the oil bottles nice and cold. And so with our infrared thermometer, at the very bottom of our bottles, I'm getting somewhere around close to about, let's see, I'm not sure you can see it there. You can see where it jumped to the negative readings. See, there's 18 degrees. This is all Fahrenheit. If I get down closer, we're at about 9, -6, -4, -5. So we're pretty cold, especially at the very bottom of the bottle. Compare the top of the bottle, which is fine because we're going to undo the seals at the top of the bottle. And so at the very bottom of the bottle, where we're down to, there we go, we had negative 10 degrees at the bottom of this 10W40 bottle. At the very bottom of all of our bottles should be in the negative degrees, negative 20 there at the bottom of the other bottle there, as maybe you're able to see on camera. So I'm going to seal this back up, and I'm going to show you our test setup. So here's a look at our test setup here. I've got 6 beakers on this black board here, and this is with a little overhead rig that allows us to flip an oil bottle upside down. And then we'll measure how long it takes for the entire oil bottle to be able to pour out and into the beaker. Each of these beakers should be able to hold the entire quart of oil, and we'll be able to watch and see how long that takes. The first bottle we're getting out is the 0W30. This is regular strength, not synthetic at all. I'm sorry, conventional. Pull off the foil. And pull that back, and we'll put this over here on the end. And we can see very little effect there. There's a little bit of drip across as I was opening the bottle up. Our next bottle is going to be the 10W40. If you look carefully, you can see some ice and some sludge. There we go. And see that thicker 10W40 oil coming out there? Now we're going to go with our Castrol Edge 0W30. You can see the frost on this bottle here. Notice the ice in there. There we go. And so that's 0W30. Now let's compare that to 5W30. So there's 5W30. This is 5W30 and this is 0W30. You can see our 0W30 is a little bit lighter in color. Now we're going to go with the Mobil 1 0W30. Now this one doesn't actually have a seal to break, so this will go just right on. And now our final bottle will be the 5W30 Mobil 1. we go. We can watch them pour. Sorry, there's been a little bit of drippage here onto the board. Let's get up and close. This is with the Mobil 5W30, 0W30, Castrol Syntec 5W30, Syntec 0W30, 10W40, and 5W30. Inside the 10W40, it's definitely a much thicker viscosity at the cold temperatures. See the 5W30. Just kind of sludge this around. There's not nearly as much buildup. The Mobil oils, the Castrol oils, synthetic oils, are definitely a little bit darker. If we get out the infrared thermometer, you can see that the beaker here for the 5W30 Mobil is reading now about 66 degrees. 5W30 is now up to 61 degrees. 0W30 Castrol, about 48 degrees. 0W30 is reading 46 degrees. About 55 degrees on the 10W40. And about 50 degrees on this 5W30. Now I'm going to go ahead and label the beakers. This is the Mobil 1 0W30. Castrol 5W30. Sorry, that was the wrong tab. 5W30 synthetic Castrol is this one. Mobil 1 5W30 synthetic. Castrol 0W30. Synthetic. Castrol 5W30 conventional. Now our Castrol 10W40 conventional. Using a temperature probe on my multimeter, touching the edge of the beaker at the bottom. See if we get a reading. We're at 60 and dropping. About 53. 50, 50, 50. So these have all warmed up to about 50 degrees, at least on the outside of the beaker. Just for amusement, let's probe this 10W40 oil. Hopefully you'll be able to see my multimeter reading here. As that comes up, you can see a thick dripping of the oil off. Stir that. See, it's definitely got some thick viscosity to it, reading 50 degrees. Let's clean the probe. compare that to the other conventional. This is the 5W30 conventional. You can look at the way that that flows off the end of that. Do that again. Now let's compare this to the 0W30 Castrol Syntec. So I'm stirring this around here. This is showing 37 degrees and dropping, 35 deep inside. And even though that's 33 degrees on the inside, you can see the flowability. No problem. Now let's compare that to Castrol 5W30. Very little noticeable differences. You can see the 5W30 definitely has like some additives that are at the top. Compared to the Mobil 1, let's look at the 0W30 Mobil 1. Flows very easily. Now let's go to the 5W30. Still flows very well. Flows still just a touch more viscous, I think. Obviously, we're nowhere near operating temperature. See that little oil drop going down the side there. Clean the needle off and then repeat. Watch that go down the side of the beaker. There's the movement on the 5W30. And now on the 0W30. Go to 10W40. Slower, as you would expect. Now on the 5W30. Conventional, you can see the conventional 5W30 is definitely slower than the synthetic 5W30s. And so now we're going to go from the cold side testing, and then we're going to switch this over to hot testing, see how these perform in a hot environment. And so we're going to switch our lab equipment up and adjust our beakers so we can do some hot side testing. So stay tuned for part 2 and look for that in our next video. Hope you found this video interesting. Look forward to seeing you in the next one and have a great day. Bye.